But what I really want to get into is the intelligent but pure left. Not those poor, sad freaks. I'm talking about the people who actually analyze the issues, who see all sides, who routinely will pay lip service to the idea that they can't upend an Obama presidency, even though he's betrayed all their values and he probably won't do these things and he's probably really for the war and all this kind of crap. Those people, I want to talk to those people because I think that they're actually incapable of thinking clearly and maybe having a little self-awareness, a little introspection. And my example at the moment is the other progressive YouTube channel that I subscribe to, TheRealNews. This is a channel that is attempting to give you the real news, the news that the mainstream media glosses over or doesn't even report. And of course, you know, they're part of a whole satellite community of reporters who have to make do with money from sources other than the mainstream media. You know, but they manage to get to all these events and cover them and analyze them, and you know, and if you just let in the overwhelming vibe, if you will, of the Real News channel, it's that they're for Obama, but they're trying to lay the groundwork for going up against him the minute he gets elected. You know, that's something Jeremiah Wright said too. It's like, you know, he's going to be against him on day one because, you know, he's going to be pushing. And I do believe that Obama is more than happy to have that kind of thing happen for real. But these people are not half as self-aware as Obama is about the process that they are engaged in. All these people are going to spend their entire lives, unless they pull one of those, you know, freaky changes and turn into Republicans, they're going to spend their entire lives as the semi-loyal opposition. They're going to scramble to make a living in a world that rewards lying and sentimentality and bromides and all that kind of stuff. And they're going to keep fighting the good fight, and they're going to, you know, maybe when they get tired, they're going to say to themselves, you know, well, we played an important role in winning that fight and this fight, you know. And I don't want to be too mocking about that, because really that is to some extent what anybody who is a progressive, that's all anybody who is a progressive can hope for, is to genuinely make things better and then be able to survive when they don't get to be king of the world as a result. I mean, the feminist movement whining, you know, 15, 18 years ago that the younger generation of women didn't give them the proper respect. They didn't seem to understand what the older feminists had won for them, and all this kind of, why weren't they just more of us? You know, this is just the reality. Is there's never you know, a singularity in the sense of a perfect victory. But what this left constantly, strategically fails to really grapple with is that they make their living off of the misery and failure in the world. And if they make things better, that's good. And things are getting better in the world in places, and I would say overall, the plight of humanity, if by my standards, if no other, is getting better. But of course there are hideous exceptions to that. Hideous exceptions where life is much worse than it was 2,000 years ago. There are people who suffer in a way that I don't think there was really any place for people in a society to suffer on, throughout their entire lives 2,000 years ago. There was too much to do to have people as fucked over as some people live their whole lives in this world today. And those people are an absolute raw material for the progressive left. They must be there for the progressive left to be the progressive left. Now I know you're saying no, but if you're introspective and you think about this, I mean, if I say to you, what's the one ingredient that the Office of Homeland Security absolutely needs to do its job? What is the one ingredient they must have to carry out their function? And then I give you the answer: terrorism. You'll understand instantly, okay? Obviously, the Office of Homeland Security doesn't want another 9/11 because heads would roll, people would lose their jobs. It would be a terrible shakeup. But on the other hand, they have to have the constant fear of terrorism to keep getting their funding. And if terrorism backs off and stops frightening the public, eventually the people are going to ask themselves, why do we need a separate Office of Homeland Security? Can't we go back to the old system? This is why the creation of the Office of Homeland Security was a giant disaster, just like the creation of the DEA as a drug war outfit, because they depend on a war to justify themselves. And like any bureaucracy, they're not going away. But this is true of the left as well. Now, you say to yourselves, no, but we're realistic lefty progressives, and we know that you can only win so much in any time, and it's a never-ending struggle, and we have won things. We haven't just been a leftist version of Fox News. We're actually making the world a better place. And maybe you are. In fact, you have to be, because you really couldn't make a life and make a living as a lefty progressive if you couldn't show something that you've achieved. Just like people who feed the starving in Africa eventually will be in trouble if they can't show some starving people who have survived thanks to their efforts, and they can't show themselves feeding people who had no other source of food. And every now and then someone, the zeitgeist vomits up somebody who says, the relief establishment is subsidizing the people who keep these people starved. It's a horrible codependent relationship, and it's not getting any better, it's getting worse. I'm poaching on another vlog that I want to do and write, but what the hell. This relationship is everywhere. And if, everyone says this war was about oil. Well, I think oil certainly was the pretext, and oil interests have certainly benefited more than anybody. Oil interests in this country and other first world countries have benefited like crazy from this, and they're going to benefit even more if we have a new mini Cold War with Russia. But this war, I have believed from the start, has been caused more than about oil. It's been about making the world safe for military, the American military-industrial complex. It's been about justifying their existence in a post-Cold War world. Certainly the people who brought us this war, most of them certainly never thought about it that way. The key players, but that's why those key players were supported, I believe. But that's for another blog, because I'm talking about the left. You're doing the same thing. You guys are not starving. You guys are not looking at a death sentence If you lose, you're not even like the resistance, the French resistance in World War II. You're in it for the long haul, and the insidious force that causes people to lose their battles so that they can refight them is at work in your world as much as it is in the world of the military-industrial complex, the oil industry, or world wrestling. There's no I'm not into sports, but I don't know who the most dominant team in sports is. Let's say it's the Yankees. Let's say the Yankees are the most dominant team in baseball. Well, the Yankees, everybody around them may agree they win too many games for all the wrong reasons. But if they ever actually won all the games, that would be the end of baseball. And they don't even have to think about it, but I'm sure that the system has evolved to make sure that never happens, that no one team ever gets so dominant that people lose interest in the game, because ultimately the game is the point. It's not the teams. No football team plays football to end football. The football game to end all football games will never occur. And most of the people on the left seem to understand the insight that the war to end all wars is an oxymoron and all this kind of stuff. They don't seem to understand that what they are doing is controlled by the same dynamic. And so you have pets of the rich, like Recreate 68. People with a lot of money who inexplicably want to have a little yappy dog that tears up their furniture. They can afford it. Why do they want such a dog? Oh, Fluffy, why are you doing that? But they have the damn fucking thing. And it serves some weird psychological purpose, and people like Recreate probably don't even rise to the level of an actual money earner for the repressive right, but they do serve that purpose, and they certainly fill out a niche in the economy. They're not agents of change. They're agents of the sameness. And if you're a thoughtful leftist, you have to think about how, if you really want to change the world for the better, how are you going to short circuit the circular connection between the money that funds, the energy that goes into the thing you hate, and the energy that feeds you? Are you going to do it? And the reason I say this is because I really think that Obama is an example of a real change, a man who is determined to spend his life making real change for the better in the world, and he will do whatever it takes, not in the sense of stabbing people in the back to do it. He hasn't stabbed you in the back. You guys are drama queens if you think he has. But if you have no self-awareness, you are going to see it that way, because you don't see that if you're going to fight for a world that's transformed, it is going to transform you from what you are now. And in the case of the Real News, every change for the better in the United States is going to lessen your ability to raise funds through donations, for instance. And if you really are a leftist, you have to ask yourself, if you are a progressive, who are you going to be come the revolution? What are you going to do with the rest of your life? When I look around at the leftists, I'm looking for people to applaud. I have like golf applause for Tom Hayden. Of the 60s generation, he's a good example. A couple days ago, though, he did do his bit for undercutting Obama, even though he supports him by saying Obama will lose. was probably having a bad day. And I saw an interview with him on TheRealNews where he turned that around and made some very good points. But you could just see from his body language there, I believe. I'm a big believer in nonverbal, what you communicate nonverbally. And, I think that part of what's good about him is he understands that for things to get better, the guy he's always been has to kind of lose. He's got to kind of lose. He's got to be kind of like Shane, You got to do your part, but then you can't really be part of that community.